The tree that we looked at a couple of weeks ago when I was taking off the topping and the side branches so that we could avoid damage to the rest of the coppice, this is the base of it. This is the stump, and I left it at this height so that if there's young growth coming up from it, the rabbits can't reach it, and therefore they'll get away properly. When you're felling a tree, firstly you want a slight angle on your cut, especially if you're coppicing, because then with the cut itself will shed the rain, the excessive rain. And secondly, you want to back cut to make a piece, triangular shaped piece like that, about a quarter or a third of the way into the tree, which will enable you to cut down towards it from the other side, and that will then form a hinge so that they will give you a proper angle for where your tree is going to fall. That piece is the piece which I cut out of that spot there. That gave me an angle, a hinge across here of material, until right at the last minute when I knew then that it was going to fall in that direction. But you might ask yourself, when you've got a saw of that size, which is the largest size of Bowsaw, it obviously doesn't go right the way through. So you have to make a back cut far enough in so that you can reach that point without causing any problems. And you obviously can't cut all the way through, because this part of the saw, the main frame, would stop you going any further without cutting another piece out on the other side. So you need to go that far in. Now when it gets down to the ground, the piece that we're looking at here, as we come around and this has fallen to the ground, I've moved it slightly using big crowbars to roll it, and I end up with a piece like this. I've made two cuts at the moment with an angle inwards like that and inwards like that. That will enable me, which I'll show you now, how to remove this section where I've cut it nearly halfway through. I'll remove that section, which means that this Bowsaw can then complete that cut quite happily. This way I can deal with something as big as this entirely with hand saw, no carbon dioxide apart from what I'm breathing out, and therefore it is nice and quiet. The wildlife don't get upset at all, and I don't have to hear a horrible noise of a chainsaw, which I know is polluting the environment. So I've made these two cuts. I now need to remove this section from here. I shall stop my recording now and show you how that's done. I've now turned this log over so that I can get at the back side of it to complete the cut. You may be able to see on there that the cut has come almost through now on that side, and the bit that I split out before is underneath there. So what I'll do now is I'll complete that cut there. That will give me the biggest piece here, which I can then split. And I'll split that with wedges and the sledgehammer in such a way that it splits into 4, 5, maybe even 6 pieces. That'll make each one of these easily handleable. Generally speaking, I cut things down so that the weight of each piece is somewhere between 20 and 40 kilograms. At the most 50 kilograms, which is about 100 weight in old money. And that means that I can then relatively easily move them around the slope and take them down to the woodshed. That's how it's done.
That is how it's done. One big log into 4 equal sized pieces, aren't they?
Near enough, yes.
Fabulous.
In this little special, or we finished the special now on Coppicing, what we've been doing is turning the tree that I felled to the top of the couple of weeks ago. We've now reached the stage where it's on the ground. I've felled the main part of the trunk, and the main part of the trunk needs to be converted from one whacking great big heavy thing that I can't handle into several smaller things that I can handle. So I use a combination of the big Bowsaw, and we've got a big Bowsaw there. That's the biggest one you can get. That Bowsaw there is 3 foot long, 900 millimeters, 90 centimeters, call it whatever you like. Use a combination of that and sledgehammer and wedges. These wedges are steel. I've got just 4 of them of different sizes. The sledgehammer, I put a short handle on it. That has the advantage, although it's a full-size sledgehammer, what's called a 14-pounder, I can handle this easily with one hand. But if you've got a handle which is 3 foot long on it, it makes it far more difficult. So I put a short handle on this. I can start the wedges off, 3 or 4 little hits like that. They go into the log that I want to split. Then I can whack it hard with the full weight of the sledgehammer travelling down fast. Also, by putting 2 of the wedges together side by side, That opens the cut up completely. Then I'll use a small or medium-sized axe to split any pieces or to cut any pieces which are still joining the two logs. A little axe of this size is particularly handy. Again, it can be handled with one hand. If you use a full-size felling axe, you really need two hands on the job, whereas this one is small enough to use single-handed, the same as the short handle on the heavyweight sledgehammer. By 1985, the scientists in the International Panel on Climate Change knew that we were affecting the climate in a big way. They'd been researching this for over 20 years before that date, and at the moment we are still at a stage where we've taken no serious action on climate change anywhere in the world.